If you see mold in your attic only, or only in your basement, or only in your crawl space, this video is for you. We need to take a two-prong attack to diagnose your mold issue. First, we need to take swab samples of the visible mold. A swab sample will confirm that it is mold, what type of mold it is, and how developed the mold has become. A swab sample allows us to focus on a very small area and get a lot of information about that area. The downside to a swab sample is that it does not tell us if the mold is affecting the indoor breathable air, which is why we need to do air testing as well. Air testing is the second type of test we need to perform to diagnose your mold issue. Air sampling identifies what types and quantities of mold are in the indoor breathable air. We compare the indoor air samples with an outside air sample because whatever is in your natural outside environment will work itself indoors. Ideally, the indoor mold levels and mold types should closely resemble what we find on the interior. If the indoor levels are higher than the exterior air, or if we find types of mold that are generally considered harmful, even in low quantities, then we know we have a mold issue that needs remediation. After I take the samples, I overnight them to a laboratory for analysis. You will get a copy of the lab report. I will then interpret the lab report in the context of my visual inspection. If you have a mold issue, we will write up a customized cleanup plan according to the IRCRC S520 mold remediation standards that you can give to a mold remediation company of your choosing. How many samples do we need to take? We need to take a minimum of 3 samples. 1 swab sample, 1 interior air sample, and 1 exterior air sample. If there are multiple colors or textures of visible mold, we will need an additional swab sample on each area. We commonly take between 4 and 6 total samples for a situation like yours. A common question I get is, why should I pay you to do a mold inspection instead of just hiring someone to come in and clean the mold? There are 2 reasons. First, a good mold remediation company needs to see a laboratory test result. They need to know what types of mold are present. Airborne mold spores are invisible, so without air testing, there is no way to know how extensive the mold is in the home. Also, in order to ensure that remediation has properly taken place, we need to do clearance air testing after remediation. I've seen situations where mold remediation companies didn't properly clean the environment and actually made the situation worse after remediation by stirring up invisible mold spores into the air. However, this would not have been caught had the homeowner skipped the clearance air test. Second, what if the mold substance is not actually mold and just looks like mold? It's much cheaper to have a mold inspection than to pay someone to come out and treat mold if it's not even there. Only a lab can verify if you have mold or not. We sample substances all the time that look like mold, but they are not. We also sample substances that look like dried mud, but the lab comes back and says that it actually is mold. Schedule your mold inspection today.